Hi guys, live from our cryptid camper. I'm Tom here with my good friend Shay, and we'd like to thank you for joining us for season 1, episode 25 of the Scare Your Pants Off Our American Road Trip podcast. On today's episode, we are setting up camp in Oklahoma. So how you doing today, Shay?
I'm doing really good, and I'm very impressed that you have dealt with my insanity for 25 episodes now.
Well, same as you. You know, you put up with me for 25 episodes, so pretty impressive. Yeah, crazy. Next week, our finale, and we'll talk more about it at the end and stuff. But so guys, just so you know, we decided to break up, and I know we told you in other episodes we're breaking up the season 1. The original was we're going to do all 50 states plus a couple bonus episodes for the whole season, but that's an extremely long first season and a lot of research and a lot of time. And so we decided to break up the season. So we are doing next week will be the final episode of season 1, where we're doing a top 10 of cryptids that we did not discuss. So ones that we passed up in exchange for another, for whatever reasons. We're picking 10 because there was a lot that were on the cutting room floor, got left on the cutting room floor for time, whatever it was, or the format of the show. But just so you know, we will be doing the other 25 states at a later time, and we're gonna pivot for season 2. We're still working out the kinks, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. Deal with horror movies and stuff like that. And we'll see, some episodes of that, a season of that, and then we'll come back on the back end of that, and we'll do the next 25 plus maybe a bonus episode or 2 as well. So don't worry, we will get through all 50 states. It's just we've changed it. So, yeah. So what's going on? What's new?
You know what? Not a whole ton. I hurt my ankle. I hurt my ankle like 2 weeks ago, and I feel like I can still feel it a little bit, but I feel like I can get back to normal-ish and do some of my there's a boxing game on Oculus that I really like. It's I've been missing it, but I've been looking forward to that. I know you've been playing it. So other than that, other than being laid up and constantly injured from making healthy decisions, nothing much really. What's been going on with you?
Just busy, busy week. And I feel like I'm always busy with work. I just, we're getting into the busy time through the summer at work because there's a lot of people on vacation. So people are out, blah, blah, blah. So not a whole heck of a lot, just I feel like I always work and then try to have a little fun on the weekends if I can. Weather's getting nice. That's now getting back out here, walking, whatever, just enjoying the days now that the weather, because it's just winters in New England, guys, are not fun. They get, especially you got February, because it's like, my seasonal depression picks up in the winter, and that February, just even though it's a short month, you're kind of in like the doldrums of winter, and it feels like it's never going to end. Sometimes it's super cold and stuff. So now we're getting into it. Mood gets better into spring. Mood's better. I can't wait to get out there and just enjoy the weather.
Same.
Cookouts, walk, all that good stuff. So yeah, have you watched anything good recently?
So I heard about a movie that was gonna be campy. I went into it knowing it was campy, so it was supposed to be very deliberately bad. And I did try it, and I went into it with the most optimism you can go into for a campy movie, and I love campy movies. But I started to watch Velocipaster. It's what it sounds like. So, and it might grab some people, but I'll be honest, it just didn't grab me, and I needed it to, and I probably watched more of it than I really wanted to. But it was basically it's a pastor who instead of like turning into a werewolf, like the whole lycanthropy thing, he he turns into a dinosaur, and
That's amazing.
yeah, which would be amazing, exactly. But it felt so short for me, and I wish it didn't. And I almost feel like I might give it another try because maybe I just wasn't in the right frame of mind, and that does happen. But yeah, I was so disappointed in myself, honestly, because I just it wasn't grabbing me. But
That's because like you said, a campy movie, like and when they embrace the camp, they know that they're campy. Sometimes there's nothing better. Like I love a good horror campy. Good example: Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
oh my
Love,
god, yeah,
love that film because I don't know if it was the intention going in or if they realized after they started filming that hey, this is campy and and they embraced it. Or Chucky, even it went from straight horror.
yeah.
Now it's that campy horror. They lean in. It's still horror, but they leaned into the camp with the Seed of Chucky, the Bride of Chucky, the Cult of Chucky.
Was it Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? Was that a movie? Am I remembering that right?
Yes, you are, and
also amazing.
Yes, it was amazing, and God, it was like, yeah, that was such a good one. I have to rewatch that at some point.
Yeah, I remember I was stuck on the title. I remember the movie, but I was stuck on the title. But yeah, it was so campy good. That's what you need. But I don't feel like the acting in this movie was even campy. It was just bad.
Yeah, so that stinks when they don't realize that they should embrace the camp and they try to make it more just like a straight horror and like, oh no, 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 now it's just cheesy and just bad and that's too bad because that sounds amazing. Velocipaster, that is something that's right up my alley.
Do you watch anything good?
I'm trying to think. Not too much. Like during the week, I don't watch as much just because of my work nights and hours. And so no real movies recently. I mean, the last one I talked about last week's episode, the Sleepaway Camp, which is a great one, but more just trying to catch up on my shows. As far as because like I usually just watch everything on the weekends. Yeah, nothing that stands out. Oh, the seasons of The Dropout, which I had told you about, which is about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, based on a podcast. That season ended. Great show. Finished that. And The Thing About Pam, that one with Renee Zellweger, that finished up. That was I love that. Again, based on a podcast. And then but what I'm currently really liking is The Girl from Plainville.
Yeah.
Plainville's not far from here.
Nope.
Elle Fanning is she's remarkable in it. She's just so good. But yeah, no new movies, so nothing really. Probably later this weekend, watch a good horror flick or something. So, well, I think today you have a cryptid for me.
I do. So, Oklahoma obviously it has the Bigfoot, which I didn't pick. Eventually, we have to talk about the Bigfoot, though. That just has to, because he's everywhere. But they also have a giant catfish, and they even have thunderbirds. Like, nice. Friggin' Oklahoma, who knew? Yeah, it's really kind of fun. But today I'm going to talk about the Oklahoma octopus.
Octopus?
Yep.
Awesome.
So it inhabits a couple lakes in Oklahoma. It inhabits Lake Thunderbird. We have a friggin' Lake Thunderbird.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Lake Tenkiller and Lake Uluga. I'm not sure. Oologha, Uluga.
Sounds like Uluga to me.
All right. It's said to attack and kill swimmers. And the description is basically that it's an octopus. It's a picture an octopus and just very, very big. And that is what is inhabiting these lakes. There's also not a lot of physical evidence supporting the Oklahoma octopus. There are, however, very, very evident. I'll do that over. I don't know what Vevi is. There are, however, very evident signs of its existence, and there have been numerous sightings. The Oakley, oh my God, what is happening? Okay. The Oklahoma octopus is the only known creature of the cephalopod species to be able to dwell in fresh water. It's believed that, and it's also believed that with its giant tentacles, that it can create a current, and it actually draws its prey to it with this current. So this thing is colossal.
Wow,
It's just sucking these things in to eat it.
that's cool.
Yeah. There are numerous unexplained drownings in all of these lakes. And there are a lot of times of anywhere from average to really avid swimmers. So there are people that really you wouldn't expect to drown. Some are assumed to be due to intoxication, but that's really not always the case. Actually, a lot of times it's not thought possible to be the case because there's not people that would partake in such things.
Mhm.
Now, no suction marks would be found on any of the drowned victims, but in some cases there are like unexplained lacerations and some bruising that really doesn't make sense for where they're drowning. So what's really cool about an octopus being in a lake, a freshwater environment, is that the change it would take to go from being a saltwater fish or creature to a freshwater creature is actually a huge physiological change. It's almost a complete inner, reworking of the inner mechanism of the creature. And do you know anything about the differences? I know obviously one lives in salt, one lives in fresh, but do you know anything about the real core differences?
Not really, no.
All right, I'll briefly touch on it because I feel like it makes the Oklahoma octopus that much more amazing, more really cool. And it's so a saltwater creature lives in a more hypertonic environment, so it actually can excrete salt. So if it has too much salt in itself or more salt than it should, it can actually excrete the salt back out into the water. Now, a freshwater creature would have the exact opposite. It would have a deficit of salt, but their bodies still need some form of salt. So it actually can concentrate the salt that it does take in to be the amount it would need to be for its body.
Okay.
Now, a fish that can survive in brackish water can do both, but in a lesser capacity. So to go from a saltwater environment to a freshwater environment, you literally have to completely change the core of an animal. And it's not something that just happens naturally, like over evolution or something. It's not how that creature is made. So between the sightings and the proofs that they do have that this creature exists really is made that much more amazing by the fact that it would quite literally have to be changed totally inside.
So, and a question on that, and if it's too much in the weeds or whatever, you just let me know. So, for a change like that to happen, because you said it just doesn't happen, and even through like evolution. So, a creature like that, would that be like over generations? It's slowly changing to the point it's fully freshwater, so maybe it's saltwater and then it's kind of almost brackish and then it's completely fresh. Is something like that, or is it just in this creature somehow it completely changed its physiology in that one specific creature? And if that's too much in the weeds, just let me know.
No, that's a great question. It really is. So, and I actually had a similar thought. So, I went and I did a little more research to try to find where there could be a brackish environment for, like, I'm looking at maps and I'm trying to really like understand it. There's not a lot of brackish environment in Oklahoma for this creature to have started acclimating to. And if you look at it, they don't touch the ocean. They're just kind of like in the middle of land, and for it to have acclimated, I can't foresee any way that it would have been able to go from full on saltwater to live in a brackish environment to become a freshwater. And it's maybe over time, like over history, because it's actually thought that the size and everything of it makes it almost like a living fossil. So possibly over like time, and the way the earth has changed and everything like that, it's possible that it has had the chance to be in that environment. But in going back at least in last couple centuries, I can't foresee a way that it would have been able to do that. But and again, anybody who does have a better theory than that or anything, please email us, let us know, because I'm super intrigued by this whole thing.
Yeah, that's I find that fascinating. Very cool.
Yeah, well, that's all I have for the Oklahoma octopus. But
so I love it because as a child, I was obsessed with octopus. I remember like seeing a giant one in a movie or something and I don't know if it was like Poseidon or some movie where it just like, it's a giant octopus and pulled a whole boat under. Always been fascinated by them just because they're such a unique with the 8 legs, and then knowing what we kind of know about octopus and squid, that they're, like in the United Kingdom, they're sentient beings now. They're officially giant squid, all that are considered sentient because they can feel emotions, feel pain, stuff like that, can reason, figure out puzzles and stuff, and like nothing super advanced, but they can do basic puzzles and have a memory. So they're just fascinating creatures to me. Ever since I was a child, and just I love it. Like the idea of one being in these lakes and rivers and stuff. It's so cool. Like I never heard of octopus. I actually dated a girl from Oklahoma, so I've been there a couple different times in different parts of it and stuff. So to think about knowing what I know about Oklahoma, because I'm not at like not a super happening place or anything like that. That's what a good choice. Good pick.
Thank you.
Well, this week I had the haunting, and in Oklahoma, I mean, there's a lot of haunts. Some a lot of them don't have a lot of like meat to the bone, sort of. It's your standard. Somebody died, now they haunt the place. But there's a lot with cemeteries, theaters, stuff like that. But I chose one that interests me because some of the stories / rumors about these haunts I found very, very interesting. Have you heard of the Masonic Boys Home in Guthrie, Oklahoma?
No, I love that kind of haunting though, because it's always so eerie.
Yes, yeah, and I know we've talked about it before. Children just amp up the creep factor.
They do
in haunts. They do, and it's partly kids are creepy, but it's also that they get taken way before their time. Yes, I call kids creepy.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're really not, and it's it's very true in so many ways. But yeah, it does it adds almost like a sadness and a chill to any haunt that has kids in it.
Yeah, and so the Masonic Boys Home, or originally known as the Dominion House, is in Guthrie, Oklahoma. It was built in 1923 for the children of Masons. In the early 1920s, many Masonic families were becoming destitute or broken, where the father would have to leave to go find work, getting into the Great Depression and the later times and stuff. So and there was no foster system or welfare system at the time. Again, this is 1923, so it's early on. So the Masons in Guthrie stepped up and built a glorious children's home as a place of refuge for these kids of other Masons. And what I really like about this place, it was it was kind of like the first of its kind and different because it was, like I said, it was a glory. They described it as glorious, and they supplied like every amenity. It was like clean, modern clothes for the time. It wasn't just hand me downs. It was like nice clothing, quality foods, clean linens, fresh blankets, toys, all that good stuff, and which was abnormal for the time. Like we know, up in through the 50s and 60s, kids were kind of like almost like little second-class citizens. They were put to work in factories and warehouses and treated like mini adults, kept beat and all this stuff. And so for 1923, this is really progressive that they're trying to make a place of of joy for these kids. So I really love that aspect of it. So throughout the years, the population of the children fluctuated. At its highest, there were a few hundred children running the halls. At its lowest point, which was in 1944, so right around the time of World War II as well, there was only the population was only about 30. And with that population decline, they eventually would decide to allow non-Masonic children to live there in 1958. But even with the non-Masonic children, the population never really got back to its highest point. It would, hover under 100. And it would stay open for about another 20 years, and then in 1978, it would finally close, in part with the declining population and also the advent of the foster care system as we know it now, where instead of putting these kids in a quote unquote orphanage or whatever, it's we're gonna place them in small family units. So it shuttered its doors in 78. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the haunts. And I mean, as with any place like this, with the history it does, you would expect there to be, some paranormal activity, a lot of energy, a lot of people have been through those halls. But so one of the more sad and kind of horrific stories is, and this may all be rumor and conjecture, but it is, I did find this on numerous different sites and everything, is that there was an evil headmistress, and she would fly into these fits of rage and beat and berate and abuse children. In one of her really bad fits of rage, she would actually kill a 6-year-old boy. Yeah, and she would beat women as well, but supposedly more of her anger was geared towards the boys for whatever reason. So she supposedly killed a 6-year-old boy, and then in the ensuing years, she would supposedly kill up to 4 more boys, so bringing her total to 5, and that's on top of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids that she abused either verbally or physically throughout those years. And supposedly you can still hear these children's screams and cries for help and stuff throughout there as she's beating and eventually killing some of them. And then there's another story, claims that a deranged priest would live and work there, and he would sexually and physically abuse the children. And if they fought back or told anyone, he would kill them and bury them under the building. And in doing so, he did this on purpose because he wanted to entrap their souls on the property for all time. So yeah, another bad one. Again, you can supposedly hear, cries for help, kids screaming, all yeah, just those things you don't want to hear. And then one last sort of really sad story is that there was they had nurses on staff and stuff that worked there and lived there, and this one nurse became so upset and disgusted by all the abuse that was happening by the priest and the head mistress. And one night she finally snapped. She couldn't take it, and she went up to the bell tower and hung herself, threw herself off the bell tower and hung herself. And supposedly at midnight, because that's around the time that she had done this, if you go to the bell tower, you can see a shadow against the wall or whatever, and or an apparition of the nurse. And okay, and then you hear a rope creak, like the rope that she's going to hang herself with. You can hear it creaking. Then you hear a thud and a sort of swaying sound.
That's such a specific sound too. Like you can, like when you're talking about it, I can hear it. Like I'm hearing the sound.
Yes, exactly. That's right away. When I was reading it and doing the research, I said, yeah, I could I could hear it, I could picture it. And you hear her scream, and yeah. But those are pretty sad, horrific stories. On a lighter, happier note to end it here, for the most part, there was those stories, and they can't be 100% confirmed or denied on either way. But for the most part, outside of those stories, this place was a really happy place for a lot of children. Like I said, and when it first opened, it was, clean clothes, fresh foods, all of that. So on a lighter note, you can supposedly hear at different points in the day kids laughing, playing, having a good time, giggles, all that good stuff. So that is the Masonic Boys Home of Guthrie, Oklahoma.
So great job first. That's awesome. But I have to hope, in the hope of all hopes, I have to hope that some of that is just rumor. And if it's not, I can't wrap my head around how after the first child would be killed, was she allowed to continue without being very heavily investigated, especially because this place sounds like it was just a really nice place, and it was a wholesome place, and it was, aside from the headmistress and the priest, and it sounds like it was such a wholesome place. And like I have to hope in my heart that it's a rumor, because I can't fathom how do 5 children die, and she was still working after the first one without someone being like, I'm watching your every single little move, and then hundreds abused. And it's I have to ask, do you know, is the building still there?
Yes. Yes, it is. It is still there. Apparently, at some point, I believe in the 80s or 90s, they were looking to renovate it into like condos or small apartments or something. But for whatever reason, it fell through, and it may have like a historical designation now on it where it can't be destroyed. Just because of the positive history I was talking about, being one of the first of its kind. I think it does, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But the building is definitely still there. So
that was honestly great choice. That was really, really, it was very eerie, I loved it. It was really good.
Yeah, you don't want those stories to be true, but they definitely made for an interesting read.
It does.
But yeah, you never want to hear about.
And
using children.
Unfortunately, that does happen though. That is a thing that happens. I mean, it's very possible that it's true, and it's just so it's hard to think about it, you know?
Yeah, I never got that, like, this, when, like, you hear about now, 'cause, the way our foster system is, where these people, they take in children and then they just treat them so poorly and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
why are you taking it and, like, well, obviously, they're not well, these people, but it's
Yeah.
like, that's just so fucking crazy to me and weird and, like, why you would wanna hurt a child in any which way.
Well,
Just
on top of it, these kids aren't in the best place in their life either. That's a low for a grown adult. And these kids are at a low some of us will never understand, and they're doing these things to them.
Yeah, whenever I read those stories, it's horrific. I read one just real quick about these kids. They were finally got out of their bio home because it was like the father was raping the girls, the mother was beating them, all this stuff. They finally got out after years, and the family that took them in immediately started doing the same stuff to these kids. And finally they were able to get out of that one too. But it's just like, I think but it wasn't until after, like, one of the 12-year-olds became pregnant by the new foster father figure there, and just, yeah, just sad.
Even
But on a better note, do you have a strange encounter this week?
I do. Yeah. So let's move on to a happier topic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had the strange encounter, and really kind of a fun fact about Oklahoma, which I never would have suspected. And it's funny. I hear Oklahoma, and I don't know why I'm so shocked at these amazing things that are here, but I am, because apparently I'm ignorant, and now I need to go to Oklahoma and become unignorant about the whole thing. I'm so excited. Did you know that Oklahoma has had more, I'm so excited about this, than 100 UFO sightings that were spotted by military pilots?
Really? Really?
Yes. I kid you not. That's blew my friggin' mind, because usually it's them doing it, supposedly.
Yeah.
So
They're usually the cover up of
yeah.
it. That's amazing. That brings a whole another level of validity and credibility to these stories. Oh, I never heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's the one I picked is not very long, but the span is just so impressive, and if you ever get a chance, anybody listening, or you, Tom, or whoever, you ever get a chance, look at some of the sightings in Oklahoma. They're all so interesting. And all right, I digress. Here I go. On July 31st of 1965 at 1:05 a.m. in Wynwood, Oklahoma, Officer Lewis Sykes spotted a bright object in the sky. So he said the object had a center that was blue or green or bluish green or greenish blue in the middle, and that the section around the middle, which would be the midsection, as far as he said, had lights that seemed to rotate around the center. He said that the object quickly rose into the sky very, very high, and then it hovered just for a couple moments, and then all of a sudden it just lost some altitude and took off north. So that was his sighting, but it was just a stepping stone for everything else that I'm going to tell you. So the sighting was confirmed actually by the Air Force Base, who got an unidentified blip on their radar at the same exact time.
Oh, wow.
Yep. It was also confirmed with sightings from the Sheriff's Department, and it was said to be about 8,000 feet high. That is amazing.
Yeah.
It would also, fast forward a little while later, it would actually be discovered that in Fort Worth, Texas, they had a blip as well that matched what would have been the same sighting.
Wow.
Yep. So further investigation, they found that it wasn't just Texas, it wasn't just Oklahoma, but multiple places, multiple states, multiple military bases, police departments, military personnel, uh, civilians of all kinds have spotted this exact thing. What was amazing, and like I said, this is a short sighting, but it's so big. All of the descriptions were nearly exactly the same, to the lights rotating around the center and everything. So that's all I have on it, but it blew my mind that it was spotted by so many people and it was the same exact thing.
That's amazing. That's amazing because, like we touched on, first of all, usually the cover-up involves a military persons and multiple, and the crafts. It's some sort of experimental craft, new craft, blah blah blah. But no, this is coming from somebody. These officers, militaries, and then it's popping up on different radar like that, where they're confirming it, and from places that are kind of far apart too, and but it's still picking it up. I like when you were talking about it, how it rose up in the air and hovers. As we know, like to our knowledge, we don't have that sort of propulsion.
No.
We don't. We have stuff that can kind of mimic it, but if you're really paying attention to it, it's not the same at all. That type of propulsion, it's more just like a mimic of it. And then to hover, we don't have stuff that just really hovers. Now stuff can glide, but not just go up, stop, and just stay in that one spot for any significant amount of time. And yeah, no, I mean, it's this just the like you said, the sheer fact that all these people over these distances, seeing it just adds this super amount of credibility and validity to it. It's yeah, that was a great choice. That's yeah, I love it. I love it when there's, because we get a lot that are whatever, it might be somebody saw something in the sky, and it's one or two guys, and you don't know if this guy is like the local Yahoo that is like walks around town muttering to himself, or if it but here these are supposedly people with with governmental kind of jobs and stuff like that, all attesting to the same thing and then you said like the same description of it with the blue-green center rotating the legs and all that stuff. It just I love stories like that, because that I'm a fan of the wild story that crazy stuff happens, but a lot of those you really have to suspend your disbelief to believe them, where this is like, yeah, totally, that totally could happen. Good choice.
Thank you very much.
Good choice. So, do we have anything else?
No, no, I think that was, again, I'm so, my mind is blown by Oklahoma, absolutely. So, but no, I don't have anything else. I'm gonna go read about Oklahoma, I guess.
Yeah, Oklahoma is a fun state. It really is. Like I said, I've been there. I dated a girl. It's different down there. One thing that was strange, just before we wrap, but Oklahoma, at the time I did drink. I don't drink anymore, but at the time I did. And down there, it's kind of part of the Bible Belt, so beer is only 3.2% by volume, all beer, but you can, at liquor stores like we know them, you can buy some, like you can get Heineken that's like 5% or something, but you have to go to a specific liquor store to get like a 5% beer. Otherwise, it's all 3.2% alcohol.
Huh.
It's common in the Bible Belt because which just makes people drink more to get drunk. That's all that really does. Because I remember I was drinking it and it was like, we went and picked up like an 18 pack of Bud Light or whatever. And I think after that, like 12 beers, I should be like blackout, and all I have is like a stomach ache. And it's
Oh,
like
yeah, that's not good.
a headache because it's watery beer. So yeah, just a little fun story about Oklahoma. So, but anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to tune in next week where we're, like I said, we're not stopping in any state, but we're doing our top 10 cryptids that we did not discuss out of these first 25 states. So make sure tune in, and again, thanks for watching, guys. Happy camping.
Bye.